I'm gonna share a little bit about. I want to call you Jim, but it's okay to call you Mack.
I've been called worse.
Well, looks like we're starting off with the bang. So I want y'all to know that I got to visit with Mack on the phone and texting back and forth. I've never met a CEO like that. That's just very open and available, and was taking a phone call on the floor when you were out there. So all that to say, I had a special request for him to come and share his story and a little bit about his life and his grit, resiliency, and determination. Because that's what I hope our students are instilled with when they come here, but we improve on that as they leave and go do great things. From a community leader, a business person, I will tell you, folks have said you're the king of Houston, that they love you. I'm thinking sainthood. I've talked to Bishop Sis about this, and he there's been miracles you've done.
That's
and
not
we'll talk.
what my confessor says.
Okay. Oh. But I do want to say I'm very, very blessed, and we're blessed that you came into town today. And I just want to visit with you about some of the stories that you have about your life. And I'm going to ask a question, but I'm going to get out of the way because they're really here to hear you. So tell us a little bit about your childhood.
Well, I grew up in, my mother's from Florence, Alabama. My father's from Starkville, Mississippi. So I grew up in Starkville for 4 or 5 years, have very limited recollection of that. And then we moved to Dallas, and I went to elementary school in Northeast Dallas, high school, and my father was a tremendous influence in my life, as was my mother. I'll never forget, my father was in the insurance business. We were playing Little League Baseball, and one of the parents said to him, the only reason you sponsor these teams is because your sons are on the team. He said, no, I sponsor the teams because I'm helping all these boys. And I learned from my parents that the essence of living is giving. A typical story of my father, he founded this Catholic high school in Dallas called Bishop Lynch High School. And I was in the 3rd graduating class. My brother was in the 2nd. This friend of ours was in the 1st. His name was Jim Rager. So my father was a big football player in college and football fan, so he worked very hard to get Jim Rager a full scholarship to Dartmouth College, which is a great Ivy League institution. So Jim went up there for the first semester, did well, came back for Christmas holiday in Dallas, and his parents didn't have the money to get him back to Dartmouth College, so he's going to have to drop out and lose out on this great education. And my father was deathly afraid of flying, so he put Jim Rager in the car, drove him all the way up to Dartmouth College, and Jim ended up being the number 3 guy at Royal Bank of Canada and tells that story about all the time. So I was lucky enough to have very great parents.
It sound like they're givers, and they instilled that in you.
All they gave when they didn't have to give.
Well, there's a term that you've used when you're talking about giving, save you money. And there's a commercial that you were shooting. Can you tell that story?
Oh, that was the first commercial I ever did. I was, my wife and I started Gallery Furniture in 1981, and I've told the story 5,000 times. We came down there with $10,000 in a dream. We started in this abandoned model home park that these, at that time they were called hobos, were living in for 6 months, and they had no plumbing, so the place was kind of dirty when we got there. And so she corrected me the other day. She went on one of these speeches with me. We started the whole business with $3,500. And so after the first 2 years, we were about ready to go broke. And I had enough money saved up to buy some TV ads. And so I rented a little TV station in Houston. They charged me like, for the ads, the production, and the running the ads on TV, $10,000. So I stayed there for about 3 hours trying to get the TV ad done, and I was very nervous. Couldn't come up with a punchline at the end of the ad, so finally at the end of the day, I had the day's receipts from the furniture store in my pocket. I pulled the money out and said, and Gallery Furniture will save you money. And the producer said, oh, man, that's enough. Let's go home. But that's what I did. And since then, I've probably done 40,000 TV commercials, so I'm pretty used to doing TV commercials.
You've had some practice. You have said, not others, but you've said you're a huckster. What do you mean by that?
That means I'm a salesman. I'm selling things. You know, the problem, people give salespeople a bad rap, but to be a good teacher, you got to sell those students on learning the material. To be a good doctor, you got to sell your patients on changing their lifestyle. To be a good preacher, you got to sell the congregation on morals and ethics and biblical truths. To be a good construction real estate guy like Donald Trump, you got to sell the dream. So we're selling all the time, and what we're trying to sell, what I'm trying to sell at this stage in my life is that work is life's greatest therapy, and the more Americans we can get to work in a job that they love to do, that will change the fiber of this country, and we'll have a better place because work brings purpose and meaning to life.
That's good. That's good. Thank you. Okay, but in the midst of your work, I'm going to drop down Harvey and Snowmageddon. And there's been a lot of people that have publicized what you've done and your store's done about that. Tell a little bit about that, but then I'd really like to know why you did that, why you opened up your stores.
Oh, you know, during Hurricane, what was it, Katrina? During Katrina, when all that stuff hit New Orleans and Louisiana, there was thousands of Louisiana residents fleeing to Houston. So we have a big electronic sign out in front of the store. So I put a sign up that said, Louisiana residents sleep here free. And that was way back then. We had about 100 to 200 people sleep there for several days. And we helped them get their feet on the ground in Houston. And then during Hurricane Harvey, I was at the store and wondering what to do because flooding everywhere. So I did a Facebook Live, and I said, if you need a place to stay, come to Gallery Furniture. And we had about 300 people there, and they were sleeping on the couches and sleeping on the mattresses, and we had a big restaurant delicatessen so we could feed everybody, and we had showers, we had the whole deal. And you know, people thought that was extraordinary. Well, that was the way I was brought up. And so they said, why did you do it? I said, what am I going to do? Let my people drown? These are my people. These are my people. Where am I to go? This is who we are. It's what we do. We're Texans. We take care of ourselves.
That's good. Wow.
And we have, and we're still doing that in the terrible flooding in the hill country. The Texans rose up, did that, and we did it at the Alamo, and we shall continue to do it. That's who we are. And one of the things this country lacks is a sense of community. You know, in 1900, the average size of U.S. household was 10.5 people. And the average size of U.S. household today is less than 2. One's the loneliest number. People used to live in rural areas, and they never moved. They knew their neighbors. They knew that, and they got up and worked 5 or 6 days a week, and they went to church on Sunday, and it was all a big community. And it takes an entire community to raise a child. Not so much in Abilene, but certainly in Houston, is the lack of community. We got to have a job where people feel good about themselves. I get all sorts of people that work for me that are convicts, coming out of prison, 10, 12 years, whatever, and they come in there and they're scared to death, and their eyes are darting everywhere. They don't trust anybody. And then all of a sudden, they're there for a couple of weeks. We feed everybody breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day, free for all the employees. Only rule is you can't have an iPhone in there. You can't have a cell phone. You got to talk to the person next to you. Imagine that. It's a novel idea. And then all of a sudden they got friends there, and then they have a problem. Somebody at the table had the same problem, can solve it for them. And then when their car breaks down and they feel like calling into work and missing and starting this same old downward spiral, they remember their friends are counting on them, and they show up for work. Community is important. Community is important.
You said community breeds unity. There's a couple things that you've done to build community in Houston. One of those Thanksgiving dinner, and then the other is Texans and Astros. Can you talk about both those?
Yeah, you know, we did the Thanksgiving dinner for years. We'd have 500 or 600 people there for a big Thanksgiving dinner. It was very successful. But I've been in philanthropy, giving money away, giving things away for 44 years now. And one of the problems is these same people come back all the time. And so during the pandemic, I watched a Mike Rowe show, is Dirty Jobs. And he was talking about how these cowboys and these plumbers and these electricians and people that work with their hands were making 40 or 50 bucks an hour and had a great lifestyle, making money, and they were happy. And a friend of mine, Mike Feinberg, he started the KIPP schools that are famous all across the country. And KIPP's goal was to get everybody to college. Well, Mike learned after 20 years at KIPP that the best they could do was a 50% graduation from college of those, everybody went to college. And too many of them ended up with a big student loan and no degree. So we decided we would open a trade school at Gallery Furniture. And we decided we would also open a high school at Gallery Furniture. The average income in a 5-mile radius of our store when the pandemic hit was $20,000 a year. And so we opened a trade school. We teach plumbing, electrical, mechanical, HVAC, all these sort of skilled jobs, and we teach it for free. And then we follow up with them to make sure they get a job when they get out. We also have a high school for people that are 16 to 20, and we have another high school for people that are 20 to 60, so they can get their high school degree. And we have, I think, 500 graduates of the high school so far. So we're doing that to teach a person how to fish rather than just give them a fish. Teach a person how to fish, and we're constantly pounding on these people to get a job, because when you're at home in that apartment and you're lonely, it's just too much. It's just too much. And there's too many Americans, that is their MO. There's too many. And the crime in Harris County is out of control. We have to get a handle on that. And the way to get a handle on that, to me, is get people to find purpose and meaning in life.
You've got a term that you've said before, that it's a setback is just a setup for a comeback. What does that mean?
That means that in life they're going to knock you down all the time. I think there was a video, I haven't watched it, of Tom Brady talking about the NIL situation. And he was saying that when he was in college, there was no place to go. You had to fail a lot, and you couldn't skip to another place. And he said that made him persistent. And I think that all of us get knocked down all the time. And, when I was broke and living with my parents in Dallas, feeling sorry for myself, then one day I turned on the television, and there he was, Oral Roberts, and he said, "Get up, go to work, and make something out of your life." So I decided I would do that, and I rode the bus to my furniture store where I had a sales job. I rode the bus 2 hours out there every day in the morning, 2 hours back at night. And I started reading these books like Think You Were Rich by Napoleon Hill and The Magic of Believing by Claude Bristol. And I learned to never give up. One night on May 27, 2009, I was at the front of that furniture store and very busy. It was a Friday night before Memorial Day. Had all these customers in there buying furniture. And one of the warehouse guys called me and said, there's a fire back here in the warehouse. So I said, well, put the thing out. He said, you don't understand, this is a big fire. So I didn't think anything of it. I thought it was a dumpster fire or something like that. So we went on, and about this time, all these firemen ran in with their full uniform on and their coats, and they started screaming, everybody out, everybody out, everybody out. And they looked at me and they said, are you getting out? I said, no, I'm going down with the ship. And they said, get it out or get arrested. I decided to walk out. I walked out and I looked over to the left where that warehouse was, and the whole thing went up. It was a $10 million fire started by an arsonist, and it burned us out. So at midnight that night, we were, all the employees came in, they're all thinking we're going to close the business and take the insurance and quit. And so at midnight that night, we made the decision, when there's never any doubt anyway, we're going to go on. We had opened a small store in the Galleria area 2 months before that. And so I got on the phone, called all of our vendors across the country with our other team members, and they started sending us furniture trucks that night to be there for Friday. And had no idea where I was going to put the furniture because we didn't have a warehouse. All we had was a little store about as big as this. And that Friday by noon, somebody called me, and we got a fully ready to go furniture warehouse. Couldn't ask for a better situation. Those trucks arrived, we unloaded them, put them in there. And that Friday, after the building burned down on Thursday night, we sold $250,000 worth of furniture, never looked back. Wow. Setbacks just to set up for a comeback next.
Yeah.
I was in a hotel or something somewhere, and they had a sign on the front of the hotel that kind of sums up my life. Life offers you a second chance. It's called tomorrow. Suit up.
That's good. That's good advice. Well, speaking of suiting up, I hear you're a big Texas Rangers and Cowboys fan.
The Dallas Cowgirls. When was the last time they were in the Super Bowl? Before 1995.
I stand corrected.
I like the Texans, and I like the Astros. I like the Houston Astros.
You like them so much that you're willing to bet on them and risk loss.
Yeah, I run these promotions that says you buy furniture and the Astros win or somebody wins, you get your money back. So it's a hedge bet. And when the Astros beat who the heck did they beat? Dodgers in the World Series, the first time, I think I won like $17 million, and that all went back to the customers, which made the customers very happy. And the second time, when they beat Atlanta, it was $75 million.
Have you ever heard this from somebody in your family? Seattle won, dummy.
Yeah, that was when Seattle played who did they play? Denver Broncos, Peyton Manning in the Super Bowl. And these guys that work for me are big Denver fans. They convinced me there's no way Denver could lose. So we did a promotion and said if Seattle wins the Super Bowl, you get your money back, knowing they weren't going to lose. I mean, they weren't going to win because they were 14-point underdogs. So they were so busy that week. That Saturday night, we sold out every piece of furniture in the whole store. Every piece of furniture never happened, never will happen again. It was crazy. They were loading on their car, truck, van. We came in Sunday just to deliver all the stuff. We had so many deliveries, it was just maddening. So I was nervous about the game. We had a big treadmill back there. I was on the treadmill, and I knew when none of those salesmen were coming in there to high-five me or the warehouse guys, I was in deep problems. So I didn't know what the score was, and we had $10 million of liability on that. I didn't hedge the bet. I didn't bet it off in Las Vegas or whatever. So my phone finally rang. I picked up the phone, and my wife said, I said, who won? She said, Seattle won, dummy. We're out $10 million. It was great. You win some, you lose some. Sometimes you get rained out. Next.
Okay, so where does that come from? That drive, the grit, resiliency, all that stuff? Because there's so many people that give up, and the first time they make a B- in class, or they wreck their car, and it's over. Life is over. Where does yours come from? Your grit, resiliency, determination.
Probably came from my German grandfather. He was a super hard worker. A dynamo. He was called the mayor of the little town where he was at in Alabama, and at one time owned tens of thousands of acres of farmland that he sold off before his death. But he was a great guy, and he was just rough and tough, and he never gave up. And I just learned that. And my father was the same way, encouraging me, and playing sports taught me a lot of resiliency. You got to keep coming back at them. We don't know how lucky we are in this country. I'm big friends with this guy named Christian Javier who pitches for the Houston Astros. When he lost that game to the dreaded Texas Rangers in the World Series, Game 6, and me losing that game was about $40 million loss. It was terrible. When he lost that game, the next day he came out and apologized to me. What a guy. So the other day, he's out there with himself and 2 or 3 of his friends, and they're from Dominican Republic. And so Christian doesn't speak much English, but the other guys did, so I was asking them how things were. And we started talking about baseball bats. And I said, is it true that a metal baseball bat these days, a good one to play like high school or whatever, college, costs $550? And they said, yeah. And I said, how is it in Dominican Republic? And they said, well, it's kind of very impoverished. And he said, the only way to get off the island is become a big league ball player. They said, everybody plays baseball. Everybody. And I said, do y'all play at night? He said, no. So I thought it was kind of strange. I said, why not? He said, we don't have any lights. I said, why don't you have any lights? We don't have any electricity. He said, we have 1 bat for the team. We have 1 batting helmet for the team, 1 set of catcher's gear for the team. It's a different world. We don't realize how lucky we are in this country. We don't realize how lucky we are in this country. If we don't watch it, we'll let it get away from us.
Last question, or last comment. You said that people are my inspiration. What does that mean?
Every day. Every day they come in, and it's mom and dad. And mom and dad are 65 years old. And that son or daughter is in the 40s or 50s. And son or daughter has severe autism. Son and daughter is handicapped. Son and daughter is not functional. But you know what? Mom and dad took care of that son and daughter for 60 years. Mom and dad never turned it down. Mom and dad are the modern day saints. It's not some politician up there preening. It's those people in the streets that are doing the job, taking care of those kids. Taking care of those kids. What type of society are we when we pay more attention to rescuing dogs and cats than children? I've got 3 adopted children. I ought to have more. It's up to us to make this world a better place. Because, you know, one day, all of us are going to have to stand in front of our Creator, whoever we might believe our Creator to be. And at that time, our Creator will not ask us, how much money did you make? Our Creator will not ask us, how many material possessions did you pile up? Instead, our Creator will ask us, what type of a difference did you make? And that's why we're here, to make a difference, to make the world a better place for these people that aren't quite as fortunate as us.
Thank you so much. That'll preach. I appreciate you coming so much. Let's give him a round of applause.